Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, right here on Verde Valley TV and KBNA 104.7 FM. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We've got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by Northland Prep Academy Athletic Director Mike Elder, who will discuss the growth of the school and the four-time state champion girls soccer program. We'll then be joined by Mingus Union High School wrestling coach Clint Mckean, who will give us an update on the season so far. But on the other side of this break, we'll be joined by Prescott High School Athletic Director Missy Townsend, who will discuss the longevity of her staff. All of that and a whole lot more right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined by a very familiar face to the program, though, Missy, I have to apologize. It's been too long since you've come back onto the show. Prescott High School Athletic Director Missy Townsend. Missy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Philip. Happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. As we know, winter sports kicking off around the entire state of Arizona and most of the states in the United States. So girls and boys soccer jumping out to very hot starts so far. Both teams playing some real good soccer right now. What do you like from both of those programs to start off the year?
You know, I'm very pleased. Obviously, we've had a pretty strong program with both of our soccer teams the last couple of years. We've got some great coaching. We've got some good kids. And I know they have a lot of desire to do well, and they work hard. So we're just excited that they're able to play right now, and just super proud of their effort and their work, and also just kind of, constantly changing to adapt to all the things that keep getting thrown at them.
I did get a chance to speak with Coach Paul Campusano at the beginning of this show's iteration, talk a little bit about his soccer program, and the girls soccer program at Prescott is one of the best in the 4A Grand Canyon region. I would say either right at or maybe slightly above or below, depending on the year, behind Flagstaff High School, led by Coach Holly Jones. But on the boys' side, relatively newer coach in Coach Philip Reed. He comes from Jamaica and a couple other schools. I believe he also coached over at Embry-Riddle as well, their soccer program. Since Coach Reed has come on, the boys program for Prescott has turned around tremendously. I mean, what can you attribute to the success of that program since Coach Reed has stepped in?
If I was to choose one thing, I'd have to say structure. He has a system. He has a system of play. He has a system of management. He has a system of organization, how he holds the boys accountable. Everyone knows their roles. Everyone knows their jobs. And he makes sure that it's probably the most organized structurally program that I've seen at a high school level. He does a phenomenal job with that.
Yeah, structure very, very important for kids at this age as well. And obviously the structure is working out very well as the Prescott boys team, just like the girls team, has gotten off to a very, very hot start. On the hardwood, of course, you get the returner back in Coach Bobby Yoder. She's back again to coach the girls program. Relatively new coach as well. Very similar kind of a correlation between both the girls and boys soccer program and the girls and boys basketball program. Returning coaches, relatively new coaches. For the girls, again, Bobby Yoder coming back. She's been there for a long time. You get a newer head coach in Coach Travis Stedman. Kind Coach Yoder has been a part of the Prescott team for a very long time. I've gotten a chance to speak with her twice now on this show, not only as the head coach for the girls basketball program, she's also the head coach of probably the best badminton team in the state, and as well as the athletic secretary. How has your relationship with Coach Yoder grown over the years, considering you were one of the people who recruited her to Prescott?
Yeah, I've known Bobby for close to 18 years. We've worked together. She was on my staff when I was the varsity girls basketball coach. She stayed with me and has been part of the program from way back then. And she's again, one of the most dedicated, selfless people I know. She gives to her teams, her kids, the school, the community. She's just one of those people who, if you could, you'd have her coach more than 2 or 3 sports. She just does an excellent job of again, going back to managing her program. They've struggled the last several years with numbers, as well as just overall girls playing basketball in this area. But she consistently stresses effort. She consistently puts teams out on the floor who are going to work hard the whole game. And she consistently cares more about those kids, and they know it, and they're willing to do whatever she asks for them. And I think that's one of the things that leads to her success within the program, and the fact that her players will do anything that she asks.
Yeah, and I think that flexibility does speak a lot to Coach Yoder as well, having to step into the badminton team as their head coach with a sport she was very unfamiliar with, and she's done a great job with that program. Like I mentioned, the badminton team over at Prescott is probably the best in the state, considering they only play Phoenix area schools because no one else here in Northern Arizona, unfortunately, plays badminton, which we're hoping will change very soon. But on the boys' side for the basketball programs, you get Travis Stedman. He's in, I believe, either his 3rd or 4th year as the head coach over at Prescott High School. What did you feel made him a good fit for the program?
Just like Coach Yoder, Travis has been around our basketball program for a long time. He was an assistant coach with our former head coach, Adam Neely. He's been involved with Prescott basketball for a lot longer than people think. So it was a natural progression when that position opened up. And to be honest, no one else really applied for Travis to really step in and take over. And he, just like Bobby, very much about team and family and structure and running a program that is not just one team versus the other. He puts a lot of effort and time into what he's doing with that team. And I'm very pleased. I'm lucky. I feel like we're super blessed here because we just have phenomenal coaches. I mean, we have people who give their whole heart and soul to coaching these kids. And it's a real pleasure to work with them because they're in it for the right reasons.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You talk about, we mentioned Coach Yoder's obviously been with Prescott for a long time. You just mentioned it. Coach Stedman has been with the program longer than most people think. It's kind of a trend with Prescott High School is a lot of coaches stick around. More specifically, Coach Cody Collette was the head varsity coach for Prescott. He left. He came back. He's the head coach again. Now he's the wrestling coach, which we will get to here in a little bit. But it's interesting. Can you speak at all to sort of what calls people back to Prescott? What calls them to want to coach here? What can you say to the longevity of your coaching staff, considering, realistically, Missy, you don't have to hire too many coaches every year, as maybe some schools might struggle keeping a football coach or keeping a baseball coach or keeping a basketball coach.
I think when you're looking to look to hire coaches, especially at the high school level, it's probably one of the most hard to fill positions you can find. As you know, people don't do it for the pay. They don't do it for the glory. They don't do it. And they don't even necessarily do it for the passion of the sport. They do it because they feel like they can make a difference in kids' lives. And they do it because they care about helping young people be better people, be better athletes, be better citizens. And I truly, truly believe that as I look to hire coaches, I look for people that are more about the person than they are about their sport. Education-based athletics, we're purpose-based, meaning that our purpose is here for a greater reason than just winning and just the scoreboard. And I truly believe that if you spend time and you spend effort and you make it intentional to work with your athletes on that that character driven, that purpose-based driven over goal, then you're going to have a winning program. It's going to be a reflection of the efforts and the time that you put into it. Coaches that just focus on the sport and the skill, their teams are never going to be consistently good. They're going to struggle. But if you put that effort into the purpose-based, you put it into the character-driven, into the value-based, the purpose-driven, that education-based athletics really is all about, then you're going to see consistent programs that do well. And you're going to see coaches that stick around longer because they understand their purpose, they understand their why. And that makes all the difference.
Well, I would also say one of the factors that attributes to these coaches sticking around has got to be the leadership of you. I mean, you just answered it right there, kind of looking for the right candidate to fill that position, not for the next year. You're not hiring coaches on a year basis. You want a coach to stick around for 5+ years and hopefully 10+ years. And it starts, Missy, with you having a very high standard for your coaches and making sure that you get the right person in for the job. And I think, honestly, it's got to do a lot with you and making sure that you do get those right people in. You just talked about it.
Well, we're lucky. PUSD, we have some great leaders. I've got great bosses. Mark Goligoski, our principal, he was the athletic director before me. He supports athletics wholeheartedly, as well as our superintendent, Joe Howard. They're both just great proponents of education-based athletics. They understand the why, they understand the purpose. They back us, they back our coaches. And so our coaches feel supported. And I think that's another important part of longevity, is they need to feel like that the people have their backs. Even when community or families or athletes might get frustrated or feel like they're not getting the playing time, or they're not winning, or they think they can do better, they recognize that they've got the support of the leadership, because it's not just about the winning.
Strong leadership over at Prescott High School, led by the woman I am speaking to, athletic director for Prescott High School, Missy Townsend. Missy, the school offers a lot of, I don't want to say they're not sports, because they technically are. They are recognized by the AIA. They are 100% sports, but I'll call them non-traditional sports. Esports is one of them. I got an opportunity to speak with Robin Bryce, the esports head coach over at Prescott High School. She's wonderful. Badminton as well, as we mentioned, with Coach Bobby Yoder, and boys volleyball, which I know when I was in high school, none of those were offered when I went to high school. Of course, I went to school in Southern California, and I can't really speak too much to the Arizona aspect of it. But how do those programs get started? Is it interest from students? Is it a parent's interest thing? Is it somebody going, hey, we've got funding in the budget for boys volleyball? Missy, how you feeling about that? How do these programs get kicked off?
Well, badminton we've had for a long time. We've had that going back into the 70s. We've had a very long tradition of badminton, and our badminton team has always done very, very well. Coaches prior to Bobby Yoder, we had coaches here that were for 10, 15 years. So we're definitely like maintaining that tradition with badminton. With boys volleyball, I did have several male athletes come to me and say, my first year as AD, and say, Miss Townsend, we really want to have boys volleyball. And I said, all right, let's do it. I'm all about opportunities for our kids, and the more opportunities that we can provide, I feel like the better, the stronger it makes our schools and our communities. So I reached out to our community. I started going out and asking for help in fundraising to come up with enough money to be able to start the program the first year. Then the second year, the school district bought into the plan and understood what we were trying to do, and they agreed to continue funding it from then on through the school budget. But that first year, we relied very heavily on people like Mike Fan, who donated. He's a big volleyball advocate for men and boys, and so he helped us purchase uniforms and stuff. And it was a team effort for sure on that one with boys volleyball. With esports, it was kind of very similar. When the AI came out and said, "Hey, we're starting esports. Let us know if you want to jump on that." And I had a conversation with Robin Bryce, who was our media technology teacher at the time. And I said, hey, I think you'd be perfect for this. She was so excited. We had just had support from our community and the Jewish Foundation to build a phenomenal media lab. And they're looking at doing some other really cool things with building a specific classroom, a team room, so to speak, for our esports team, coordinating that with Yavapai College. So again, it's just a real community effort. When you're starting these programs, there's a lot of groups out there who are willing and able to help and excited. And our team is literally bursting at the seams. When we first started, it was relatively small, and we're slowly gaining momentum, and kids are starting to see that this is a thing. And like I said, Robin broadcast their matches, their scrimmages on YouTube. And I'm like, who knew that was a thing? Who knew you could watch kids compete in esports? But it's gaining a lot of traction, and it's kind of a fun thing to see happen.
That is very exciting. I as I mentioned, I did get an opportunity to speak with Coach Bryce about her taking over that esports program, and we're seeing it pop up a lot here in Northern Arizona. I know that esports has been around for a while. My alma mater, Grand Canyon University, has a very prominent esports program, along with a bunch of other schools throughout the United States. But we're seeing it pop up a little bit more here in Northern Arizona. Are there any other programs that have been discussed possibly in the future, or some that are in the works to be added to the lineup of non-traditional sports over at Prescott?
The only one that really that's kind of around that's offered through the AI that we don't have is girls sand volleyball in the spring. We've talked a little bit about it. Our club teams are so strong up here that that pull is a little bit stronger to play club volleyball than it is to do another high school season of sand volleyball. Mm-hmm. We've got so many competing volleyball clubs in Northern Arizona that it kind of waters down those athletes for the spring. So I haven't seen a very large interest in that. It's the one that I'm always open. If I had enough athletes to make that happen, I would be right there trying to get it started. But until that interest comes, we probably will not have that until that interest rises.
Yeah, there is currently a sand volleyball team over at Mojave High School that is coached by their volleyball coach, girls sand volleyball, I should say, with Coach Zenko Radic. So, Missy, we've got just a couple more questions here. I think one of the bigger questions is, will there be fans in the stands at Prescott this season or winter season?
Yeah, for the winter season, we're following the AIA, which they have said that each school can have up to 2 parents or guardians at the home events. So right now there's no visitors at anybody in the whole state. And we are allowing 2 of our parents/guardians to attend our home events.
Final question here, Missy. You're not buried too far in the snow, right, over in Prescott?
I should have changed my background to show you what the field looks like right now. It's buried under some snow.
Oh, I bet. That beautiful field over at Prescott High School. Athletic Director for Prescott High School, Missy Townsend, thank you again for coming on the show. It is always great to speak with you, and keep up the great work over at Prescott.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Northland Prep Academy Athletic Director Mike Elder on the other side of this break. Off the Bench, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by Athletic Director for Northland Prep Academy, Mike Elder. Mike, welcome onto the show.
Well, thank you, Philip, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, we're happy to have you. You are not the first Spartan to join us on the program here. We did have girls soccer coach Michael Blair and his daughter Mia come on the program. They were both great. And I figured, you know what, let's bring on the athletic director to talk about the rest of the wonderful sports available over at Northland Prep Academy, located in Northern Arizona in I believe somewhere in the Flagstaff region, correct?
Yeah, Flagstaff region. We are in the central region for most of our sports and the 2A conference.
Now, you took over the athletic director position in 2003 over at Northland Prep Academy. You have an extensive history of how you got to Arizona, which did include some stops in Alaska. You're originally from New Jersey. What attracted you to the position of athletic director over at Northland Prep?
I love sports. I love working with athletes. I was a Division I athlete at Arizona State University back in the 70s. So I thought that it would be a good match for me to, at the time, keep my teaching position, but at the same time work as the athletic director. But as our athletic offerings and activities continued to grow, as our school grew, that teaching position became less of a pallet on my plate than the athletic position, and that became a full-time job after just a few years.
What about Arizona wanted to make you stay in the state?
Well, I left the state after graduating from ASU. I had a degree in history and anthropology, went up to Alaska to work as an archaeologist up there. And I wanted to teach in one of those bush villages. But when I went back to school to pick up my teaching certificate, I met my wife at that time, and she had no desire to live in the bush. So I stayed in Fairbanks, where I got my first job teaching and coaching ice hockey.
Wow. Okay. You yourself were an ice hockey player, as we have discussed. Since taking over, like I mentioned, you've been with the school since 2003. That's about 17 years, give or take a couple months. How have you seen this school grow? It's still a relatively smaller school, but because of that strong girls soccer program and a few of the other programs at the school, it's really been kind of placed on the map as one of the better smaller schools offered here in Arizona.
Well, the school is excellent academically, and that's our first mission, is to be relevant and rigorous in the classroom. And then when you get really good students that are driven and focused, they seem to make really good athletes. And so I was coaching cross country and track in 2003 when I was first hired, and we had some success there. And finding great coaches in these small towns can be difficult, but sometimes you can find that diamond in the rough, and we've had some success finding great coaches. And once you find a great coach, all of a sudden you have a great program. And our girls soccer program is one example of that, as well as I no longer coach cross country and track, but we've been able to keep up success in that area because, we won a state championship this fall in cross country.
Fantastic. Congratulations on the state championship this past fall in cross country and as well for soccer.
Girls soccer, that was a four-peat.
Yes, it was. Quite a dominating performance from Northland Prep for the past, it feels like 20 years. But the team is really, really incredibly strong, led by Coach Michael Blair. We will get to that soccer program in a little bit. But, what challenges did you face early on in your career at Northland Prep?
The challenges were to grow programs, and because we are a smaller school, unlike a Flagstaff or a Coconino that's here also in Flagstaff, we have to rely on quite a few students to play multiple sports, and a good percentage of our athletes are 2 and 3 sport athletes.
Right.
So that's a challenge. It's a challenge for them to juggle a rigorous and relevant academic program while at the same time playing 2 or 3 sports.
Yeah, it's got to definitely be hard, like you mentioned, to grow those programs because you have so many athletes playing multiple sports throughout each season, whereas opposed to, let's say, even a larger school like a 4A, where you can kind of get away with the numbers. You can have kids who just play football or just do wrestling and basketball or just do baseball and wrestling. But with a smaller school, it's like you said, it's tough because you've got so many kids playing so many different sports throughout their time with the Spartans. But you talk about Coconino and Flagstaff. Obviously, they're the quote unquote larger schools that that are included in Coconino County. not going to really see Flagstaff or Coconino on the regular season schedule. During prep for this interview, I saw you did an interview with AZ today, or NAZ today, speaking about just kind of, it didn't really, not necessarily make sense for either team to play against each other. It was just kind of tough because you guys are a 2A, they're a 4A. Maybe it would be a little different if Flag and Coco were a 3A. You can kind of justify that a little bit more. But what about for the summertime and the off season? Is there any kind of collaboration about maybe seeing the Spartans play, let's say, in the spring soccer while the fall season is done against Flagstaff or Coco? Could we see any kind of collaboration during the summer or the off season with those two schools?
Yeah, we get into our basketball teams, get into the summer programs with Flag and Coconino. They've got excellent coaches at both those schools, and they are very inclusive when it comes to sort of informal play. And I'm very appreciative of those two schools, and as well as the athletic directors, to allow that to take place. But you please understand that in past, we have played Coconino in both basketball and volleyball. We compete against Flagstaff High in swimming, wrestling. We see Flag High, cross country, of course, track and field. We compete against those schools. We have triangular meets against those two schools. And so there is a lot of communication, as well as some competition that goes on. We just don't play in the same conference nor the same region as those schools, but we support each other. We cheer for each other. It's a small town, Flag, believe it or not. And it's a great place to live.
Yes, very much so. I've got an opportunity to visit to Flagstaff a couple times regarding sports and not regarding sports. And yes, it is definitely one of those places where you look around and go, man, I really wish I lived here. And I kind of want to live here now. But and that's great that you have had that collaboration with both of those schools, because there really is no reason why there shouldn't be any collaboration between the smaller 2A school with you guys and the larger 4A school with them. And it does make a lot of sense that a few different sports that carry the same roster size, that don't necessarily, I don't believe football is offered at Northland Prep. So obviously we're not going to see football against Flagstaff or Coconino, but soccer, same. You're playing with the same amount of players. Doesn't really matter. Although I would love to see Northland Prep take on Flagstaff in the regular season, because those are two powerhouse girls soccer programs. I'll tell you that.
And the girls coach over at Flag High, Holly Jones, a good friend of mine. She used to teach at Northland Prep. And then she's now at Flag High and doing great. And our coach would love to play them too, but they just don't match up in a season to make it right. And we don't want to play in the wintertime, Philip.
No.
I don't know if you saw what the weather here in Flagstaff. I don't know when this is going to be aired, but we got a ton of snow, and I feel sorry for Holly Jones because they've got to go out there, or Mike Jenkins, and they've got to go out there and clear that field. And we've got 3 feet of snow where I live. So good luck to them. Fall is a beautiful season here in Flagstaff, although it's beautiful outside right now. But fall is a good time to play soccer.
Yes, it very much is.
Football, but we don't have football.
Yes, and you're right. Yes, fall is almost like the perfect time to play soccer. As you mentioned, yes, in the Flagstaff region, my news director for Yavapai Broadcasting, Paul David, he's up in Flagstaff right now. He works and lives out of Flagstaff, and he was showing me his driveway. It feels like it's about 15 or 16 inches of snow up there, and yeah, it's pretty well covered. I talked with Missy Townsend just a couple minutes ago, and she let me know that the Prescott Field, Bill Shepard Field over in Prescott High School, is covered in snow right now. So yes, you guys do have the added benefit. And I did want to clarify that Northland Prep does play fall soccer, not winter soccer, which also attributes to why we have not seen Northland Prep take on Coconino or Flagstaff in soccer. Moving on here a little bit, girls basketball and boys basketball kicked off. The only two sports right now for the winter season. What have you liked from both of those programs early on?
I like the fact that we have two brand new coaches that are, getting their feet wet, and they basically hit the ground running. They're both experienced basketball coaches, so that's a big help. The fact that we have we're able to have both a JV team and a varsity team. A lot of the schools in our region are canceling the JV programs, which leaves our JV boys and girls kind of hanging. But that start of the season and then the vote to stop the season really disrupted a lot of the kids and maybe even the parents thinking, Arizona's the nation's hotspot for COVID-19. Maybe we don't want them playing in a competitive sport where you're basically in each other's faces. So I understand that, and it's that's a challenge. We do have wrestling, but our coaches got together and we decided that it wasn't really smart to continue a wrestling program in this age of COVID.
Yes. So many challenges that come with COVID-19 and we have seen them, especially in this winter season. I got an opportunity to call a Mingus wrestling match against Prescott recently, and you see the fatigue in the kids wearing the masks while they're wrestling. This is unfortunately the nature of the beast where we're at right now. Is the only way that we can play is with masks, and it's unfortunately where we're at. But I do agree that maybe some things could just be skipped over for 1 year, but we'll gloss over that a little bit here. As we mentioned, the girls soccer program is incredible over at Northland Prep. You mentioned it early on, 4 straight state championships over at Northland Prep, led by Coach Michael Blair. Can you talk to me a little bit about just, what Coach Blair has meant to the program, what he has meant to the community up there, and why you felt he was the right choice for that program when he was hired so long ago?
Philip, when we talk about girls soccer, yes, Michael Blair is a mover and a shaker, but he is co-head. Our other head coach is a gentleman by the name of Keith Hovis, and together they're like yin and yang. Good cop, bad cop. They complement each other so well. They are part of the entire soccer community here in Flagstaff, and they cultivate great relationships and make Northland Prep a destination site, just like Holly Jones has done it for her program over at Flag High. There's just this pipeline of talent that just keeps being fed and keeps getting bigger and better all the time. We had 37 girls on our team this year.
Incredible.
Just incredible.
Yeah, no, that's you're right. Coach Ovis does deserve 50% of the credit, just like Coach Blair. And I know Coach Ovis's daughters have played on the team along with Coach Blair's daughters as well. And yes, both of them have put together an incredible program over at Northland Prep Academy. The Spartans girls soccer program is the best of the best. And it's almost a little sad that you guys don't compete in a larger region, because you put Northland Prep in the 4A Grand Canyon region alongside Flagstaff, and Prescott. That's a 3-headed monster that is tough to beat every single year. I did mention that basketball is the only sport right now that is playing in the winter. Have there been discussions about expanding that out or moving some sports around?
As I said earlier, I don't want to move soccer. I know that Coach Blair and Coach Hovis would love to play in that league along with Flag and Coco. But I try to remind them about how winter can sometimes be a challenge. So what we're trying to do, Philip, is get a lot of the 1 to 3A schools that are in the valley to move over into the fall. A lot of the teams that we're playing in what's referred to as the team sports, your basketball, baseball, softball kind of team sports, a Scottsdale Prep or a Glendale Prep, they're playing soccer now. We would like to see them move over and play in the fall. But, sometimes space, if you've got football teams, that can be a challenge, especially us who are small schools. We have to rent our fields from Flagstaff Unified School District, which which is right across the street, Sanawa High School, which is now Sanawa Middle School. Well, when that became a middle school, those fields became available for our use. And, it's been really nice because of the geographic proximity from Sanawa across the street and Northland Prep right next door. So, we're utilizing them. And I don't want to move those soccer teams to the winter.
Yeah.
And I have to keep Michael and Keith on my side in agreement to that.
Yes. And unfortunately, I do share the same sentiment with Coach Blair that I would also love to see Northland Prep play some winter soccer. But for right now, they can stay in the fall. That's perfectly fine with me. I know it's perfectly fine with you as well. Mike, I got one last question for you. Fans in the stands, where's Northland Prep on that right now?
Well, during volleyball, we had no fans. And our coach was fine with that. Our parents were fine with that. Basketball, we started off with the policy of no fans in the stands. And I got some pushback on that. And so I've got 3 seniors playing on the girls' team, 3 on the boys' team. I'm going, compromise is something that I think we all need to start practicing. And in a compromise situation, you don't get what you want. And I'm going to allow the parents of the 3 seniors to attend as long as they wear a mask and socially distance.
Well, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Do we want to mention maybe the activities that we have? We just started Esports.
Yes.
And we have chess. And so we would like to expand some of those activities, especially in this COVID environment where you can play those sports safely.
Yes. And that was going to be my next question, which was if there are any quote unquote non-traditional sports that were offered at Northland Prep. Very similar to Prescott High School, you guys offer an esports program, which we are seeing pop up a little bit more here in Northern Arizona, along with, down in Maricopa County, my alma mater, Grand Canyon University has a great esports program. On top of that, you mentioned chess, something we don't see too much of, which is very incredible. I'm terrible at chess, so I would probably not compete, but still, sports are great. Whatever kind of competition form it is, it's always great to see kids back out and competing. I know we both share that same sentiment, regardless of if it's out on the basketball field or sitting in front of a chessboard. Wonderful things going on at Northland Prep Academy. Mike, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show. We are unfortunately out of time, but I'll tell you this, we need to bring you back on for the spring.
Philip, thank you so much. It's always fun.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. That was Athletic Director for Northland Prep Academy, Mike Elder. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Mingus Union High School wrestling coach, Clint Mckean. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by the currently undefeated Mingus Marauder head wrestling coach, Clint Mckean. Clint, welcome on to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Yes, I should have clarified. I should say welcome back to the show, as this is the second time you've been on our program. Coach, as I mentioned, 3-0. You got an early season win against Marco Ceniza. You come back at home last weekend and you beat Prescott. earlier this week, you guys were able to take down Thunderbird High School. How has the team been able to navigate the AIA restrictions? I know you guys are currently doing well on the mat, but how have you guys been able to sort of navigate the restrictions in place from the Arizona Interscholastic Association?
Well, the communication from our administration, from our athletic director down, has been helpful. He's always, Yancey DeVore is our athletic director, has been doing a great job of informing us what we need to do, giving us any type of paperwork, any type of protocol we need to follow. And then it becomes the job of the coaches to enforce and kind of set that precedence and try to, make sure that when kids are not doing what they're supposed to, that because they make mistakes, it's easy to let your mask fall down and just make sure that they get it back on. It's been it's been an adjustment for sure, but it's certainly not one that has stopped us from competing. So we're thankful for that.
Yeah, of course. As I spoke with Dave Wilbur during the wrestling match, it is kind of unfortunate that the wrestlers do have to wrestle with masks on, but unfortunately that is where we are and how we had to get the season going on. So as you mentioned, you guys are complying quite well to those guidelines, but another kind of issue with COVID is roster size has been reduced significantly. You're not necessarily carrying a full varsity roster or carrying a full JV and freshman roster as well, because you've had to limit the season due to COVID-19. Is there any concern that might hurt your numbers next season?
Absolutely. And well, I can say that we are fielding a full varsity squad now. We've added some of our upper weights. So that's something that we have been really working on. And now we've got that full varsity squad. Just about next week, it should be in place. But the JV and freshmen, if we could have them now, we would. But for a number of reasons, it's just our numbers are down now. And you take a look at a program like Thunderbird, who we just faced. They've got a full JV squad, and so there are teams out there that have full squads, and that's we as coaches are jealous. And I said that to the Thunderbird coach. I'm like, man, how did you keep all these kids out? And he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and smiled like he had a secret he didn't want to tell me, and that's just how it goes. So are we worried about the future with a lack of freshman JV right now? Yeah, we are. However, we have a core of young wrestlers that are really good, that'll be back next year. And then we also have some numbers of wrestlers who wrestled throughout the youth ranks and are kind of taking an off year right now. And so they're going to come in next year, not as brand new wrestlers, but as wrestlers who, have some experience.
You talk about Thunderbird having that JV program, and you just mentioned the fact that Mingus currently does not have a JV program, and also you can argue not a girls wrestling program as well. But you talk about those youth programs still kind of somewhat taking effect and making sure that when these guys come in as freshmen or they come in next year, that they're prepared and ready. But for the kids who are currently in high school who may not have made the varsity roster, is there any kind of mitigation that you guys have put in to make sure that you're still developing those younger wrestlers without that JV and freshman program?
Yeah, we like to do a lot of kind of one-on-one work, especially with our experienced wrestlers. They know what to do when it comes to technical drill time. And then we can go and focus on those new wrestlers. We can take them in pairs. We can take them in small groups. And then sometimes, too, we will take a more experienced wrestler and have them be the coach. And that helps not only the developmental wrestlers, but also, when you teach something, you learn it even better. So for the wrestlers that are coaching, they're learning as well.
You've got a pretty good range of experience on your roster this season, from your son Isaac, who's been wrestling for about 10 years now, to somebody like Jace Briseño, who used to wrestle in middle school, and now he's coming back a little bit later in his career. But you do have a literally brand new wrestler in Andy Babcock this season, who for the first time ever had an actual wrestling match last weekend against Prescott. And as his first match was a forfeit in Marcos Deniza. But how has Andy been growing as a wrestler since the first day he stepped in to where he's at this right now?
leaps and bounds. And if you ask him, it's not fast enough. He wants to be good now. He wants to win every match now. So he's very competitive. He's very athletic, and he has that drive. And he's just got to learn how to have that drive, get as good as he can, as quick as he can, but also be patient with himself and don't let that frustration overtake him. That emotion that comes with someone who is as competitive and athletic as he is.
Right. What is something that you see young wrestlers who, let's take away like Andy's experience. Let's go maybe somebody who's been wrestling for a little under 3 years, or possibly even at a very novice level like Andy is. So those people who are just starting out, what sort of struggles do you see with younger wrestlers when they first kind of get going with their wrestling career?
Yeah, I think a coach needs to be aware of the athlete. Most athletes you do not want to throw in to the mix for heavy competition right away. They need to get their feet wet. You need to ease their way into there. You need to do a lot of practice matches first, smaller tournaments. And now some athletes are ready from the get-go, but most aren't. And you have to recognize that as a coach. And the same would go with weight management, and especially cutting weight. Most new wrestlers are not going to do well with cutting weight. And so you want them to be at their natural weight. Now, some wrestlers will come in and say, hey, I know I'm new, but I want to be at this weight class. What do I need to do to get there? So then you help them out that way.
Okay. You talk about experience, and obviously there's a lot of instinct with wrestling. I played baseball and basketball. So when I was a baseball player, I played third base, and I knew instinctually due to repetition that when a ground ball came to me and there was a runner on first with only one out, I was going over to second base and we were trying to turn two. That's an instinctual thing. That's something I'm not even thinking about. I just know when that ground ball comes to me, I'm going straight over to second base. But in wrestling, when we were covering the Prescott Mingus wrestling match, you were screaming at Andy to keep his head up, keep your head up, keep your head up. And I know with Andy being inexperienced, it's kind of hard learning a new sport to remember all of those small things. So, do you have any advice? Do you have any advice for a younger wrestler to sort of keep those things in mind without overthinking a lot of those sort of small details when wrestling?
Yeah, I would say, there's a difference between position and technique. And that would be with any sport. There's basic athletic position that you need to know and be in, and both for your advantage and for your defense. So, for example, it is very common for a wrestler like Andy or a new wrestler to put their head on the mat because they're tired. Now, what happens is they're putting themselves in bad position. It's not necessarily a move. It's not technique, but they're putting themselves in a position to where they are giving the advantage to their opponent, and now they're on their back and the match is over. So just by simply hanging your head, by getting out of position. So it's very important that a new wrestler learns the position as much as they learn the technique of these moves. So yeah, that's something that usually with a new wrestler, you're not yelling out moves, you're yelling out position.
Okay. So it's more of a positional thing for Andy as opposed to he's not doing, he's not, well, yeah, you just said it. It's a positional thing. It's not a technique issue. It's just he is not setting himself up for success in the position that he's currently in. But you do carry one female wrestler on the roster this season, Aliana Cricks, who I did get an opportunity to speak with on the show. You can go check that out right now on our YouTube channel. Aliana's great. She's a wonderful interview. Wonderful suggestion, Coach. I really appreciate you setting that up for me.
It should be a good one, yeah.
She was great. She was so great. But like I mentioned, she's currently the only wrestler on the roster. She did get a chance to wrestle against Marcos Deniza, did not get a chance to wrestle against Prescott, did not get a chance to wrestle against Thunderbird. Yeah. Is there any sort of concern that Aliana is not going to get an opportunity to wrestle enough to qualify for state?
Well, yeah. So we are setting up duels for her, just specific matches where we take her over to another team's duel. So she was scheduled this past Tuesday to go to Chino Valley and wrestle, but it got snowed out. Chino Valley was, I think, scheduled to wrestle Prescott, and Prescott has no girls. So they invited Aliana over. And she was set to go, but the weather happened. So we're trying to set up more duels for her. and where she just goes on, with an assistant coach and goes and wrestles another team. That's not part of our regular schedule. As far as qualifying tournament for girls is different this year. It's an open stake tournament.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
My next question was literally going to be if are we going to run into these same challenges later on in the season? Because you just mentioned it. Prescott does not have a girls wrestling program right now. Mm-hmm. There are obviously opportunities. You just mentioned Chino Valley for Aliana to go travel and kind of pick up the slack a little bit that she unfortunately didn't get against Prescott or Thunderbird this past week. But are you noticing so obviously you are noticing similar challenges with a lot of the other schools here in the region. Have you noticed any similarities with any other schools in the state?
Yeah, we've been getting emails from coaches around the state saying, "Hey, I have 2 girls and I'm looking for matches for them. Can we link up? Can we do something?" So we were trying to be creative with getting our girls some matches.
Okay. Coach, as I mentioned, you guys are going to be taking on Cortez this coming weekend. We'll be on Saturday. You can check out that game right here on Verde Valley TV. We'll be on the call for that one. It should be a lot of fun. The Marauders look to go 4-0 on the season. Coach, how are you feeling against Cortez?
We had a tough match against Thunderbird, and I think that we've got some momentum. We knew it was going to be tough. Thunderbird were returning team section champs from last year. They're a storied program with a strong tradition and a lot of pride. And we told our boys, like, if you're not prepared, you're going to get surprised. So, they're going to come at you. And we had some very good wins. We had some disappointing wins, two especially we thought we could have and should have won. But, we still came away with a team victory. But it's still, we think about our individuals, and they're trying to be set up for sectional seeding as much as possible. So those wins, they hurt, but those are the best time to learn, and they're going to come back stronger and motivated and take it out hopefully on Cortez this Saturday. Hopefully we'll get some revenge matches, coming off a loss for a couple of our guys, and they can get back in that W column.
Yeah, and we're hoping to see that again. Again, you can catch that Marauder matchup on Saturday against Cortez right here on Verde Valley TV if you are interested. So, Coach, going forward in the season, what are some things that you'd like to see this team improve on?
Well, I think it depends on each individual. Our kids are doing a good job of conditioning right now. Typically, I think when we look at our matches, we're not getting as tired as our opponents. But each kid has some specifics technically that they need to work on, mentally that they need to work on, maybe, managing the mental aspect during a match when you get down. So we just need, we try to take a look at each individual kid and say, hey, where do we need to improve? And that kid needs to identify it as well. So, they're like little meetings that we have throughout the week with kids, informal meetings and through texts and, but I've loved how our kids have gelled this year. They're communicating with each other. They're motivating each other, and they really care about each other, and they pick each other up when someone's down. And it's really something that I love to see. And it makes me feel, well, I think one of the best feelings as a coach is when I see that bond of athletes that they have.
A great group of kids you got there, Coach, and hopefully this group of kids will give you a 4-0 to start the season as the Marauders take on Cortez this weekend. Again, you can catch that game right here on Verde Valley TV. Coach Clint Mckean of the Mingus Union Marauders, the head varsity wrestling coach. Coach, best of luck this weekend. We look forward to the match, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. You too. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more Off the Bench right here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt tax office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. Want to welcome you back here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. I'd like to thank all my guests for coming on the show this week. I'd like to thank you for watching and listening. We will continue our coverage of the winter sports season with a whole bunch of new and exciting guests next week on Off the Bench. For my guests, I'm Philip Catafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you again next time.